All right, so today I have on Nicole, and she is a personal branding and headshot photographer, and her business is Nicole MCH Photography, and she's my favorite photographer in the area. How are you doing, Nicole?
Good. Thank you so much for having me here, Tammy. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on because I know I love your business, and we've had so many good conversations before already, and I know people are gonna love what you have to say. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Oh, so
So
excited. I know. I love our chats too, honestly. I have my drink right here, like my little energy drink. I'm like, yes, let's get into this. So pumped.
So why don't you start by telling us then like your where you're from and like kind of your backstory before maybe the photography even started.
Sure. Yeah. From the Philly area. I don't know how wide your audience is, so we'll just ground there from Philly area. Um, I actually have my background in psychology. Which is wild, right? Like, I know, it's like, how does this apply? And then I worked in nonprofit for a really long time. I actually worked in the healthcare industry for about 11 years. And then I got my master's in strategic communications, applied that in the healthcare field. And then also, I shifted then from nonprofit to corporate, and I got my project management certificate, my PMP. And so I used a lot of my project management skills and my communication skills to really level up in my project management industry and the work I was doing there. And then all along that time, I was taking pictures. So I was learning photography. So I am self taught. So I was gifted a camera for my 30th birthday, and I cried like happy tears. And I have been taking pictures ever since. And I've just been learning and absorbing and like different creative techniques, how to do it, how to get off manual mode, auto mode into manual mode, and just learning all the different types of genres and what really worked for me and where I could serve people best. And I did that on the side for a really long time, and then launched my business last April full time. So I'm like now completely, fully business owner after having all of those like different learning experiences, I call them, in like the nonprofit world and the corporate world, in the project management field, communications and psychology, and using it all. And it all matters in business. So it actually kind of all worked out. And so now I'm here as a full time photographer, and I do personal branding headshots for awesome women like you and who are looking to, level up in their business or, you know, rebrand or gosh, I mean, I've even helped with headshots for law firms in different states. So like I'm just kind of like I'm loving it. It's so fun. I'm just grateful I get to do this.
I can tell like how much you love your work, and and from my experience too, like working with you, like I can tell that you love, your clients and the people that you work with. So what like psychology did you like study? Like what type of psychology was it?
So I was a general major. So I was totally liberal arts kid in college. Because I was one of those kids who was like, I don't really know what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. I was like, I wish that I had that deed or whatever that is that tells you like, oh, this is it, right? And you just find it early on. I did not get that. So I found psychology, and that was just the first class I really liked and excelled at. I was like, oh, this is so easy for me. I'm just fascinated by this. It was probably like my first introduction to what flow, like a flow state feels like. And I didn't even know at the time because to be fair, I hate to say I'm older, but like I feel old because we didn't talk about flow states then. I didn't know that's what that was. All I knew was I liked it. So it was a lot of social psychology, really into that. Cognitive behavioral psych, really fascinated by that. Just how the brain works and the different functions of like, your hippocampus versus your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex, and like how that all kind of influences everything that we're doing every second of every day. So that fascinated me. But I didn't go back for my master's because I wanted to just start working. Um, so I was raised by a single mom. So like my hobby when I was a kid was work. Like I worked from the second I turned 16, literally on my 16th birthday, I had a job. So I always just worked. So I didn't realize like, oh, maybe I should go back for my master's in psychology. I just took time and I was like, let me just see what I can do with this. Um, and so it actually helped me in the jobs I did, but like I didn't actually get to like apply it in the way that I thought I was going to. And I ended up going back for my master's in communications, which is kind of related but different. So yeah, I don't know. I still read a lot of personal development books all the time. Like I don't know about you. Are you reading any good ones right now? Because I feel like we both are on the same wavelength about that.
My whole bookshelf behind. God, I love personal development. Right now I'm not reading any that I love. I'm reading one from like she's called like Rising Woman on Instagram if you've heard about her. She's been on like a few podcasts. Her name's like Shalana Ayana or something.
Okay.
It's like it's decent. I'm not in love with the book so far. I've read others, but that's what I'm currently reading.
No, I love that though. And sometimes it is like that, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll
hmm
have more than one, to be fair. I'm like,
hmm
I'll start one, I'm like, maybe this isn't for right now. Maybe this is for later. And then I come back to it later and I'm like, okay, now is the time. But yeah, I'll have a couple.
But I did pick up the Amanda Francis book that
Yeah.
was on my shelf,
Oh my God, it's
so
so good. I'm so happy you
that's what
got
I'm
that.
working.
That literally, I was listening to it again earlier today as I was editing photos. Like I literally just had it on in the background because I'm like somebody
Mhm.
who like, especially with personal development, do you have to listen to it twice? Like or a couple times when it's really good so you
For the
like it
most
sinks
part.
in?
hmm
Yeah. So I had it on again. Which how far in are you? Have you started it yet or
I'm on just like the second chapter, so I have to do the homework for it.
So full disclosure, I did the homework, but I didn't always do it for every chapter. So I just
Okay.
kind of like went through it. And for me, that was enough. And then occasionally, like if I was feeling really called to like do one of her journaling exercises, I did it. Or I went back to it later and did it. If I was like, oh, you know what, I'm feeling really stuck in this money mindset area, like this my enoughness, right? Or like my worthiness. So I went back to her chapter on worthiness and enoughness and how
Mm,
to call in certain numbers. So like that's how it worked for me. So in case that helps you or anybody that
yeah.
wants to get the book, it's called, can we say this on here? Rich
Yes,
as Fuck.
say
Okay.
it.
It's like, wait, it's called Rich as Fuck. It's very good.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I that's a good point because I feel like when having to wait for like the journal prompts, then I feel like I have to like kind of pause my reading and I kind of just want to
Mm-hmm.
flow through. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'll just like flow through and then, like you said, revisit the
Come
end of
back.
each chapter. Yeah,
Come back later.
that's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah. You'll still get the information. It still works. Yeah. It's
hmm
still all there. It's just how it sinks in and when it sinks in and how it works for you. But I totally, I really, I'm so glad you got that. So good.
Yeah, so I think it's so interesting though, kind of how our stories align like a little bit. Like I didn't know what to go into school for either. And I went to school for communications, journalism specifically. And then I hopped into education where I did my master's in elementary ed. And then,
I get it.
worked there for a little bit. So it's kind of funny how right now, like both of us, we still are using those majors. Like
Oh, 1,000%. Your education, oh, 1,000%. And everything you do going forward, right? Especially with coaching, you'll use that. With me, communications, it's interesting. I was taking my PMP course, and one of the biggest things, they're like, if you take away anything from doing this PMP, know this: project management is 90% communication. And I was like, perfect. I already have my master's in communication. And it really, truly was. And so, and obviously using project management and running a business, I mean, putting in systems, being more efficient in my client communication, it's a big satisfier, you know, making sure that people, you know what to expect, when to expect it, like giving them the information that they want to hear when they want to hear it, all that, like it all kind of just comes together. So
Mhm.
we're on this path, right?
Yeah, yeah, because
All for a reason.
yeah, 'cause sometimes I feel like I was like hard on myself, like, oh God, like, I'm not even using my major and like other people I know do that too, but it's like just wait, because it'll come back. It'll come to use and
It
you'll use
will.
bits and pieces throughout the rest of your life.
Exactly. I think there is this misnomer. One of the biggest things that I mean, getting to this point in my life, I'm like, you know what? Nothing is a mistake. It all happened for a reason. I needed to have all those experiences to give myself the confidence to get to where I am now, to be able to have the knowledge to build the systems I do today, to know that I can serve people and show up in a way that like is multifaceted, right? Like I'm not just a photographer. I'm like, I'm a business owner, right? And like you're not just a coach, you're an educator and you're a business owner and we're trying to do these things that are so big. And I think it all applies. you can't, yeah, it all applies. So I love that you had a similar journey to me. And I think we definitely connected on that like instantaneously. And you built your business on the side as well as you were kind of, acting as an educator in that space. So that also was hard juggling all of those things, and you learned how to do that successfully, right? So
Yeah.
how are you feeling now that you've like launched your side hustle? Because I can talk about mine too. I'm like, how where are you at? Like I like hearing like both of us because I feel like it's
Yeah.
such an interesting journey.
Yeah, right now I feel like just trying to get out there because I spent so much time like just with the building and like I
Yeah.
still am building, but just like now trying to get the message out there, put myself out there, get in different rooms because that was the time like I couldn't do that when I had to be in the classroom. Like so
Yeah.
now I have more of the time to do that, but yeah, like just really like getting out there, exposure, meeting people, like stuff that I couldn't do when I was full time teaching. That's what
100%. That was one of my biggest drawbacks when I was running my side hustle too, is I always felt like I wanted to be doing more to build the business and I couldn't. Like I always felt so restricted by it. Instead of expanded by it, I felt restricted by it. And I think that's something that I don't know. Did you struggle with that too? Because I feel like that might be a common thing for a lot of people who have a side hustle that they're passionate about and they're excited about, but they still have a full-time job.
Yeah, it was really restricting and like you're just like thinking about it all day 'cause you're like I just want to do that. I could be doing that with
Mhm.
my time like and like then you kind of feel like you're behind because you are working full time, but like also you need to work full time still because you need money, the money like so it's like this whole, you
Yeah,
know,
cycle. It's
back
a
and forth.
cycle. I
Yeah.
think one of the biggest things looking back now, and even though, I mean, because frustrations are gonna came up. I mean, they come up now that I'm full time. I still don't have enough time. It's like I'm like, can I get more time though? Um, I feel like one of the things I learned though was like I am really proud of the way I built my business on the side because I took the time to make it so it would be sustainable when I went full time. Let me see if I need to reframe how I said that. But yeah, it was the time was worth it. Like even though I couldn't dive in as much as I wanted to, as quickly as I wanted to, my full-time job also gave me the ability to find that I wanted to do personal branding. Like I didn't know what niche I really wanted to be in. I wanted to figure out like, hey, like maybe I want to do weddings, maybe I want to do events, maybe I want to do just headshots, and maybe I want to do family portraits, and there's literally real estate photography, there's just so many. I tried all of it in that time, and it really gives you that creative time to experiment without the pressure of having to be like, I need to make money at this, right?
Mhm.
Because that can just so I feel like that fear that of not having that safety and security of an income, right, can really make you can lead to decisions maybe you're not so happy about and then take away from that love that you have for the thing that you're trying to grow, which is your
Mhm.
business or your passion in. So I think I'm thankful for it. Even though it was frustrating and constricting at times, I'm very grateful for that time I gave myself to grow and build a foundation that I can now really continue to build on. I don't know
Mhm.
how do you feel about yours? Like you feel like that way too? Like I don't know. I just felt in a tangent, but
Yeah, I feel like it was the right move for me to definitely like leave that job in particular and
oh,
move back home.
I'm when you know.
Yeah.
That's the other
Yeah.
thing when you know, you know.
Yeah, it was definitely right and like and moving back home like living below your means they say like that I'm glad I did too. And I do have a part-time job like once a week
Mhm.
or twice depending. But right now I'm kind of like do I need to like pick up another because I'm like if I want money quick like so that I can like end up getting my own place or something by like the end of the year like to rent like do I need to should I pick up another job, like a part-time job? And I'm like, So it's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like if I'm going back and forth, but then it's like, oh, is this just like my big leap thing? Like if you've read that book, which everybody listening recommend Big Leap, like am I just trying to like self-sabotage myself like as I, you know, do that?
Level up and grow. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. I think it's a balance. Like I definitely have those moments, right? Like I have those moments too. I think it's 1,000% a balance because one, we are multifaceted individuals with a lot of talent and a lot of different skill sets, right? Because our backgrounds, like our different backgrounds, right, brought us here, but that also gave us a lot of knowledge. So I definitely the answer that I've been coming to on this lately is that it's okay to take on other responsibilities outside of your main core, like, this is my offering, this is my coaching business. It's okay to be like, you know what, I also have this other thing that's supporting me. As long as you say to yourself, one, like, am I still honoring my business? Am I still honoring the commitments I want to have to growing my photography business? This isn't taking away from that, right? In any way. It's really just helping me do that more. Like, I think, especially as you're still, like you said, you have these other goals in your life. I think it's okay to have a little more as long as it just doesn't take away too much from what it is you really want to do. Like you said, like, because we can self-sabotage. So it's like just getting really clear on that. That's what I do. I always am like, if before I do anything now, before I make a decision, because that's the thing that freedom gives you, right? You can make all your decisions now.
It's so nice. It's so
It's
refreshing.
great.
You're like, oh.
But it's also overwhelming at times. I think it's like
Mhm.
there's the shadow side and the good side of it. And to feel good and self-assured and confident that you're making the right decisions, I feel like I have to get quiet and get clear on them first. So I'm like, okay, does this really fit? How does this fit? Is this a long-term commitment or a short-term commitment? I'll give you an example. So, I worked for in my corporate role as a project manager for a long time before I left my job, and it was 100% the right move. I do not regret it one little bit. It was. I knew the time. In fact, I probably stayed longer than I needed to because I really wanted to save up a good nest egg to make sure that I would be able to keep going and not revert back, right? And not go back. So, like what you were saying, living below your means or saving a good amount, like, I definitely think, I mean, sure, there's something to be said for those who can just jump and leap and be good. That's not me. That's not how I was brought up. Like I said, I was raised by a single mom. Like, safety and security always mattered to me. I always had a
Mhm.
job. And so, even working with my money mindset, even working with my limiting beliefs, I also know, like, I have to do what I feel to feel safe. And I don't want to threaten my purpose and my passion by not feeling safe. So, like, for me, I will look at opportunities that come my way in project management still. But I say, hey, how long is it for? Because I got one, they were like, hey, do this 6-month opportunity. I said, no. I got another one that was a 3-day opportunity. And I was like, okay, 3 days. I can give 3 days, right? Like, that's a very different balance. It's a very different structure. And it's going to help me in my business, right? Because money's money, man. We can bring it in however we want. But it's just looking at, like, and also, like, balancing with our time. I don't know. That was is that clear?
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
just,
no, I love how you said, like, about safety and stuff because that's for sure one of my values too. And I think I live in constant, I mean, yeah, like, granted, like, I live back with my dad and, like, in my parents' house, so it's comfortable, it's safe, like, I have
Mhm.
that, but I don't know, I think I have to reprogram some, like, beliefs a little bit because I think having lost my mom and, like, that
Mhm.
trauma of just, like, so unexpectedly, like, I think I have a fear ingrained of, like, what if, like, everything, like, I lose everything, like, I don't, like, friend, like,
Yeah.
everything, type of thing. So it's kind of like living in that fear a little bit of, like, so I like how you said, like, you don't have to necessarily go full time for project managing again, but, like, looking at, like, a 3-day opportunity, like, works
Yeah.
kind of like that. I like how you mentioned that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're allowed to call in money however we want, right? Like, I mean, I think, and a lot of times when you talk to other entrepreneurs, I mean, they have multiple revenue streams, right? They have multiple streams of income, right? They create multiple businesses, right? They're not like, oh, but I can only have this one business. No, right? They say, oh, cool, I did that. I'm going to do this too because I'm interested in this, right? Like, I mean, that's the nature of entrepreneurship. So I think sometimes it's just like getting clear on how is it aligning with my values and my strengths too. Because the other cool thing about it is I can still keep my PMP certification by doing that work because you have to do a certain number of hours every so many years.
Really? Mm.
It's like 3 years to keep your certification valid, right? Like anybody who has like a CPA or there's way more advanced, but than a PMP, but but maybe like any other certification or education certifications. But so it's like, oh, cool. So I also can apply this to that too. So I can keep my PMP, which also helps me be a better business owner and a better service provider for my clients, right? Because then I'm thinking about the processes and the efficiencies and the communication and everything that they're receiving at the end of it to make sure they can rely on me. So it all kind of funnels back through, right? Like I guess like that's kind of how I look at it. So but yeah, that's that's where I'm at right now, at least.
Hmm. Yeah, and like I think I think you summed up entrepreneurship beautifully, something that I needed to hear too, like that we can really like do anything and we can have multiple
Yeah.
streams because I think so many of us live in, or at least me, one of the beliefs I had to like work through is just like we have one job, one stream of income.
Yeah.
You like don't have that like if you wear three different hats, if you're a podcaster, if you're a coach, and if you're, a sound healer, like that's you can't do that. You gotta have one full-time like job. And I'm like, that's what
Nope.
I have to like work through
Nope.
still because I'm like, granted, I don't have like necessarily like, all the evidence and like I don't necessarily feel like completely safe and everything yet, but like I've seen other people doing it. So having to like really work through that.
What do you mean by evidence? Help me understand that more.
Just like, well, I mean, like I said, I'm like starting out with the sound healing and like
Yeah.
I'm still in the beginner stages is I guess what I mean by that. So like
Like building your credibility, building that trust, building that that you have the ability, just that inner knowing that you can provide the service and provide it well and charge for it and it's valuable. Like that piece kind of.
yeah, just like that like I've started, I'm in the beginning stages, so I guess like quote unquote um the visibility like hasn't been, I haven't even like gotten to hosting regular sound baths like virtually or whatever. So like
Yeah.
I can't, so that's I haven't had like evidence yet that I can
But you did
do
it.
it,
You
but I
did
haven't even
sound bath
tried.
at my mastermind, and
Yeah.
it was beautiful, right? And it was wonderful, and it helped us really get grounded and centered before we dove into some really important goal setting for the year. So I think that that is proof, and that's
Mhm.
enough proof that
That's true.
it's possible. And yeah, and I've been to sound baths before, right? I mean, they're amazing. I mean, I've been to yoga classes that have a sound bath before. I've been to large, like Selfish Philly, right, where they have their beautiful sound bath before they kind of release everybody into the rest of the conference. Like, so there's definitely, I mean, different levels of it and different places to play with it. But I think you're qualified and you have a wonderful talent. It was so helpful. I
Thank you.
was so grateful that you offered to do that. I
Yeah,
was
and if
like,
you need me at the
yes,
next one.
absolutely. Absolutely. And we are multifaceted because I mean, solopreneurship, I mean, right now, I mean, I say solopreneurship, I just hired a virtual assistant. So excited.
Yay, congrats.
Yay. I hired her in December and she's wonderful. And I've definitely worked with some other folks to help me like supplementally, like vendors, right, to pull it in. But like as solopreneurs, like we really cover so many buckets. Like we have to do so many things, right? We have to wear so many hats just in that. So I think, yeah, like we're allowed to have more than one dimension.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
even and even if it's not like entrepreneurship for like anybody listening, like even if you're
Yeah,
not in business, like you
yeah.
can have a side hustle. You can also do a
Yes,
podcast for fun if you want to be a podcaster. Like,
yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and honestly, if you're even thinking, okay, if you have a side hustle, awesome. Like I'm so curious as to what people's side hustles are. Like I hope they reply to this with what their side hustles are and what they're doing and what they're passionate about because that would be so cool to hear. I love hearing people who are growing something they care about on the side because that literally was a lifesaver for me through so many hard moments. So like yes, awesome, but even if they don't yet, even if you don't have a side hustle yet, like, just and you're like, "I kinda want to because I hear about it and I want it." Like, get so curious. Like, this is I actually told my sister this the other day because she was like, "I feel like I wanna have sex." And I was like, "Well, this is how I started mine." I was like, "Just get super curious on what interests you, and then say yes to that as much as possible, as much as you can, and just explore, explore, explore." James Clear talks about this in his book,
Atomic Habits?
Atomic Habits. I'm like, I know you know because we talked about
Oh, I know.
it.
Yep.
Right? Like you're even in business, you're just exploring. You're exploring what works. In life, you're exploring what works. Like whether you like tennis, maybe you don't, maybe you like yoga, maybe you like, I don't know, hit classes, right? That's all exploring and trying, right? Side hustle goes the same way, right? You just try. Maybe you are a photographer and creative at heart, and maybe you want to try that, right? Maybe you do have a passion for coaching. Maybe you have maybe you're a great software engineer and you have an app idea that you want to build on the side, right? Do it. Like get curious about those things and then explore them as much as possible until you hit one that you're like, yes, this is it. And then you exploit the hell out of it, right? You just dig on in into that thing. I mean, I love the way James Clear explained that because I was like, it's exactly what we all do anyway with our habits. And like side hustle is just a habit. It's just like a
Mhm.
really cool habit that can make you money
Right.
doing something you love.
Yeah. And like with anything, like I feel like his one quote that I love, um, I have to like remind myself of that, which is like if you get better by 1%, you'll be
Yes.
37 times better by the end of the year. But every
Yes.
day you
Yes.
do the
Yes.
1%. So I'm like, because I realize I'm like, well, I don't necessarily like sometimes we get into like anybody gets into comparison, they fall into comparison holes, right?
Oh,
And
I
I
do
feel like,
for
yeah,
sure.
sometimes I'm there where like, oh, well, like, they're there in this business, like they're 2 years in or they're a year in their business and they're this far, like, what am I doing wrong? But like I realize I'm like, okay, like the only person that you're really gonna compare yourself to is like who you were yesterday because I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm my own like worst critic, worst enemy, like not worst enemy because I'm my best friend, but like
But both. We're both sometimes, right?
yeah,
We can be
yeah.
both.
And so it's kind of like, okay, who were you yesterday and how can she be your competition and like how can you be better than her yesterday? Like that's how I've been kind of like
Love
trying to
that.
think about it.
I love that. I love that so much. And I totally agree. I definitely see myself as my biggest competition and my also like trying to be also my like more self-compassionate. Because sometimes like I can get too far down that competitive hole where I'm like, I have to learn this and I have to do this. And like I actually just did an exercise earlier today. It was because I was feeling really judgy. Like, and for me, when I feel in this like Tara Brock, she's a really great meditation teacher. I don't know if you've
Hmm,
heard of her.
I think I heard it.
She talks about like the trance of different things like fear or judgment. And for me, when I get into judgment, I know I'm like, okay, I've gone too far in my masculine. I've gone way too far to kind of like in my to-do list. That's what it feels like. That's like, I have to do, I have to learn, I'm behind, right? And I'm not enough, right? So whenever I get there, I'm always like, okay, how can I be more self-compassionate? How can I show myself more love? Because that was the person I was to be fair, I'm in the corporate world and I'm trying to do less of that now. Like I'm trying to give myself more peace and more ease because and really create and thrive from that space of like I love myself, and by loving myself, I'm filling my cup, and then my cup runs over with all the things I'm going to give to the world. But I notice that I still go back sometimes, right? So it's like a constant process, right? Of like self love and then like self judgment, like and what that feels like, and like just coming back to yourself.
Hmm.
So yeah, and that comes up for me a lot in business and a lot. It's I talk about it so much too. Like I feel like I talk about like, hey, don't do this. Like be confident, be strong, be, self-assured and I really want to share that message and I'm always there to pump everybody up. Like I always say, like I'm a cheerleader. Like not only am I a photographer, but I'm also your hype woman. Like, cause I want to make you feel so good. Like I want you to leave
You
that
did.
session feeling like you are a badass who can conquer the world and you're gonna, and these photos are gonna help you. But I also have to do that for myself internally. So it's like that practice maybe helps me do that too for everybody else, but it's just constant. It's every
Hmm.
day. And I think I know because that experience is like, I know people feel that way before they come into a shoot a lot of times. They feel like, I've never done this before. The inner critic gets loud. Or can I be doing this? Should I be doing this? Who am I to do this? And it's like helping them work through all of that because I have to work through it for myself. So,
Right. And like, yeah, this goes for anybody that's like starting mindset work, no matter what you do, like in
mhm.
career, like I I remember listening to a podcast and the guy's like, yeah, you have to work on your mindset every day. And I'm like, no, like, no. I was
I
like,
don't
I
want to.
fix
I want to
it.
wake up and be perfect.
Right. I fix it and it's good. And it's going to be
Yeah.
like that forever. And my biggest lesson last year was like, oh, everything's gonna like come back up. And when it comes back up and resurfaces, it might come back up in a different way. It might come back not as intense, a little quieter, but like it's still there. And it's like, oh my God. And I told my friend, and she's like, yeah, I liked what you said in your podcast. Because one of the episodes, I was like, it's literally like a full-time job because you got to do it every single day. Mindset work is every single day. And like pumping yourself up, making sure like, you're not letting these old limiting beliefs and stuff like keep you down. Like,
Yep.
full-time job. I don't get paid. I don't get paid overtime for
I
that.
don't get paid. I
Yeah,
don't get
no,
paid enough. I'm so
no.
tired.
I'd have a lot of money if I did get
I'm
paid for that.
overworked
Yeah,
in
I'm
the
so
area.
overworked. Like,
No, but I love that you said that because I can feel it so much. It's like it's every day. But honestly, when I get sorry, is there like background noise?
oh no, you're good. I don't know anything.
Okay, honestly, when I do the work, I do feel better. And I'm like, I'm so glad I did that. Like, I'm so
Mhm.
glad I did that work. It feels so much better now. I feel so much better now. So, like, it's the work, but it's worth it. It's so worth it. Cause you're right. It does come back quieter. It comes back quieter. And then you notice it faster. You're like, oh, I know what's going on here. Like with the judgment thing, I'm like, oh, it's just judgment. Like you need to go and you know what you need to do. You need to go do a meditation that gives you self acceptance and compassion. Like that's what you need to do to help resolve this. So you kind of learn faster too. Like this is what will get me out of it quicker, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like you learn how to move through it faster.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I like what you're saying. And I don't know, I feel like there's so many different like tools. So sometimes personal
So many.
development can get overwhelming, but it's like what's gonna work for you and like what's going to. And some days, some things might work better
Don't
than
always work.
others. And like that's also frustrating because we also see like morning routines and like going on TikTok, you're like this girl's like doing this in the morning and this, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, a lot of this works and it's good, but like again, it's not going to work for everybody. And some
Yep.
days it's going to work better than others. And sometimes you're just not going to want to do it. And
Yep.
like,
Yep. 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 Some days you're just not going to want to do it. Yep. And you
mhm,
have to take, like, for example, when you're traveling, like I was just traveling, I was in Nashville for a photography conference and it was so much fun. Really enjoyed it. I was going, 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 going. And by the end, I was like, wow, I'm so depleted. I'm so tired. Even though I was excited to do this, even though I met so many amazing people, even though I learned so many new things I can't wait to apply to my business, I'm exhausted, right? And it's because I wasn't doing that work. I was just going, right? Because I was like, oh, I don't have time for it right now, right? Now, reflecting, if I had maybe carved out some time, because I think that's the thing too, is like, how do you bring this stuff with you, right? Because it's great when you're at home, right? I think a lot of us felt this too when we went from being at home and then shifting back into the workforce more, right? Like, I think it's cool. I have these great habits when I'm in this space only. But then when I start to do other things or I start to travel, it's like, oh, it shifts a little bit. And you're like, how do I apply it now? Right? It doesn't really fit the same way. So I liked what you said. It doesn't always apply all the time. The same things don't always work all the time. What other people do don't necessarily work, but you just got to find what works for you in that moment. Um, I did end up working out. That did help because always been like a tried and true for me. If I move my body, I know I'm going to feel better, even
mhm,
if I really don't want to. But yeah, I think it's like examining that, right? Like and finding like the different ways to make it work for you every day, no
mhm.
matter where you are, even though it's hard, even though you
Yeah,
don't
and
want
that's like,
to.
and that's one thing. I'm gonna like post a reel on it or
Or
whatever, a
TikTok or whatever.
TikTok.
I love your TikToks, by the
Oh,
way. They're so
thanks.
good. Yes, I
Thanks.
watch
I
them all the
like
time.
I like
So good.
yours. Yeah, I was like, you know what? Like it's a fun outlet. So I'm like, let me do this. I'm gonna challenge myself to do one a day and like we'll see. I'll see how fun it is and
Yeah, and
whatnot.
it can be messy. Like I love that it doesn't have to be perfect. Like it can just be
Mhm.
you in bed with filter or no filter. And you're
Yeah.
like, hey, here's what's up. Here's what I'm going through. And it might help you too. I love that.
Mhm.
It's great.
Yeah. But one of the things I said was like that the that with like wellness doesn't have to like look a certain way, or like personal development, like it doesn't have to look a certain way. You don't have to be a certain person. Like you don't have to be like wearing all white and like gold jewelry and like saging stuff and like not making fun of anybody, but like you don't have to carry your yoga mat. You don't have to go
No,
to
it can
yoga.
look
Like it doesn't
very
have to be
different.
spiritual, right? Like it can be personal development mindset where it can be for anyone, and wellness is more of like it's the lifestyle change or like a mindset change, almost like it's putting your health as a higher priority than like other things, or just like accepting and like being like I value my health is valuable. And that's kind of like what it is like for me, and like what I'm trying to teach people. Like it doesn't have to, you don't have to be a spiritual like blonde girl or like whatever to like
Yeah.
love wellness and want to be well.
I mean, I'll a great anecdote for that. The book Mindset by Carol Dweck. We both had it. I remember you brought it to the photo shoot with me, and I was like so excited. I was like, yes, I love this book, and it's a super easy read. Um, the person who recommended that to me was a physician who works at Hub, who's in I don't want to give her away, but she's a pathologist, doctor,
Hmm.
right? Like completely not in the wellness. Well, she's in wellness, right? She's literally in the wellness space, right?
But
She's a doctor,
yeah,
but she's not like
personal
the
development.
spiritual wellness coach, right? That's like, has wellness. She's a totally different spectrum of it,
Hmm.
right? So it's like mindset is for everybody. And Carol talks about that in her book too. Like she really gets into how it's like for sports enthusiasts and all kinds of folks. So I love that you said that. It's so important to remember we can all be well. I'm a
Yeah.
photographer and I care about wellness, right? Like
Hmm.
I want to be well. And I think about it all the time. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's for all of us. Like we all need to put
Mhm.
ourselves first a little bit more sometimes, and focus on our health. And yeah, I think speaking of mindset, it like the growth mindset. I know we talked about that when we had the photo shoot, but
Yes.
like literally changed my life. And now that I'm since we're on the topic really quick, like tomorrow is my 1 year anniversary of my podcast, which
Woo!
mindset
Oh
had to use my mindset so much. So you're
my
on
God. Yay.
my anniversary episode.
I love
Yeah,
it.
because you know, like just like doing side hustles, anything, like we have to have the growth mindset, like and stick with it, and like I can get better. Practice like makes makes me better. Like I've had to do that with podcasting, with anything so far, and I'm like, but also keeping in tune with like, okay, is it still aligned? Do I still love it? Like, yes, that's the answer, but some days I'm still gonna have hard days. Some days are gonna
Yes.
be more fun.
Yes. 100%. All of it. I love that you said that because I agree with you. And anything you're doing, sometimes you're going to have hard days and you're not going to want to show up. And you're like, okay. And maybe sometimes you need to honor that, right? Sometimes you do need to just like give yourself rest and space. But other times you might just need a little bit of, you need to just switch your mindset and just say, you know what? It doesn't have to look perfect. Sometimes for me, I think that idea I need to be perfect, like the idea that like, oh, if it doesn't look really good, or if it's not like refined in the way that this person's look, going back to comparison, it's like that idea of perfection might stop me. So I'm like, what is actually stopping me? Is that actually I don't want to do this thing, or it's because I don't like, it's like I need to do this thing perfectly. Like what's actually stopping me from wanting to move forward, right? Is it because I'm tired, and I'm really tired and I really don't want to do it, or is it because I'm like making myself tired because my mindset is telling me it needs to be perfect and I'm not good enough and I can't do it, so I'm not going to try. And I think it's like discerning between those two things, like sometimes. So it's like we're talking about messy action. It's like just go do it. Just go
So
take the messy action.
what do you feel like is behind your perfectionism sometimes? Did you ever have like a realization or anything?
Oh yeah. For me, it's definitely like the fear of being rejected and the fear of somebody saying like that I'm not good enough and that I think it goes back to like when I was younger and not feeling like I was smart enough or capable enough and some of that, maybe being made fun of. Like I wasn't always like crazy popular when I was really young. Um, and I think some of that it does carry with you. And like, like parents got divorced. You know, there's those little things that kind of like influence your mindset that you don't even realize because you kind of internalize them. And I think that all kind of translated into like perfectionism because I was like, well, if I'm perfect, then people are going to love it and they'll love me and then I can do it. But if I show up and I'm not perfect, they're going to make fun of me. They're not going to like me. And oh my gosh, then they're not going to love me and I'm going to be alone. Right. It's like that whole like really dark spiral. Like obviously like, I've thought about it a lot because I do a lot of personal development stuff because I don't want to be that way. And I've gained so much more clarity on it now. But you know, you still sometimes you're like, oh, that came back up again. That perfectionism, there it is. Like, and realizing like it's okay to take messy action. Like we were just talking about this before we started this, right? Like just start the YouTube channel, just start the
Mhm.
TikTok, just do it. Like you know, you get stronger than that voice inside of you that says not to. And like that's just it's always like you said, like 1% stronger every day. So like that perfection voice comes up, 1% stronger than it is my willingness to want to do this and my excitement to try. I don't know.
And I
Yeah.
love what you said about like looking through your perfectionism and like noticing like it was fear and like the fear of like learning and it being true that I'm not good enough. Because would you say
Mhm.
that was like your
Oh,
is that like your
1000%.
root
Yeah.
limiting
Like
belief or
having that
whatever?
validation and the negative validation, right? Like it's really true. I really suck.
Right.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And
And I
being in
noticed
art too. I just read the book Art and Fear. I've been reading a lot lately. Um, which is really good. Yeah. And it talks a lot about that too. Like that, just that desire to want to be accepted and just to be loved for who you are. Right. And that fear of like, well, if it's perfect, maybe people will love it then, you know? And so, yeah, definitely. But you summed it up perfectly with how you said it.
yeah, because I resonate with that because my like root limiting belief was always like I'm not good enough, I'm not smart
Mhm.
enough,
Mhm.
and yeah, perfectionism for me I think was like just yeah because I wanted to be good enough and I wanted to like I think also subconsciously like stand out and be better so that
Mhm.
I could get the recognition from like my parents because I was feeling like un unattended to or whatever. Like I was taken care
Yeah.
of, but like they were busy with work and like my mom's had like health problems and stuff or whatever. But like, so I think that was also my way of trying to get like
Yeah.
love too.
Yeah. A
And I
thousand percent.
think
Yeah.
now like we're saying about the messy action, like I think sometimes I get scared because I'm like, okay, I can't do it yet. And then sometimes I feel like I'm like, oh, well, I'm not sure. I can't do it yet because I'm not sure. Like, do I actually love this new hobby, let's say, or is it? Am I just like indecisive? What is it? And I realized I was like, oh, it's actually just like fear.
Mhm.
I do want to do this. It's just fear because I used to be very like indecisive with things too, and I'm like, so oftentimes whatever's blocking us,
Yeah.
anybody listening, oftentimes it's fear too because
It's
we all want
fear.
to be safe.
It's just fear. And one of the things I have done and to kind of like help me, and again, may or may not work for anybody, right? But it worked for me, was I wrote down my accomplishments. I started writing them down to remind myself, like, I'm not that person or that I'm not that child anymore, right? Like, also, like, I love her, right? I'm gonna honor her, but like, look at everything I've done. Like, look at all these things I've done. Like, I've run multi-million-dollar projects that were global multi-million projects that were products that were launched globally, right? Like, I did that, right? Like, I started my own business and I photographed everyone from news anchors to reality TV stars to lawyers to doctors, right? Like I've done that, right? And made them feel really good, right? In the process. And so it's like, yes, like, and I wasn't perfect in any of like, you know what I mean? Like I executed, I was reliable, I did my job really well. I learned, you know, how to support and serve in a beautiful way. But was I perfect through any of it? Like probably not. No, like I'm not perfect. It's okay. And it was all good. It all still was great, right? So yeah, I do remind myself of that sometimes too. Like, it's okay. Like, even if that core thing is still there for us, like, it's okay. You're still
Hmm.
okay anyway. I don't
And
know.
like that's another thing too, because it's always gonna be there, but it's whether we have the tools and like the strength to give it any power or not, I
Exactly.
think. Because those are just like they're part of our story. And it's yeah.
Hmm.
Do they have the wheel or do we? Like, are we
Exactly.
letting it define us still,
Yes.
leading our story, or like are we in
Right.
charge?
Are we in charge? Right.
Hmm.
Exactly. And we
Yeah, and it's
are. We always have the choice.
and I also think like another thing, it's like, some of us, like for example, like growing up, we felt like maybe we didn't always fit in or whatever. And so that's a big part of our story, but then there's other people that I have to remind myself like, oh, like that, maybe let's say hypothetically like holds me back from making new friends, let's say, in like as an adult. But then there's like, a girl over there, like whatever, that like her story is like, that she's unloved by parents
Hmm.
because her, I don't know, parent like left her with the grandma and like, and
Hmm.
then that story like rules her and how she shows up, let's say, in relationships, like romantic relationships. And it's just like, okay, everybody has their story or like their quote unquote like insecurity. Um, so just because maybe one is about their looks, well, this person's might be about their intelligence. Like this
Yep.
person might be about their skill in their work. Like we
Yep.
all have something.
Yep.
I don't
We
care
all
who
have
you are.
something.
We all have
Oh
something.
yeah, we're all carrying something. We're all
Yeah.
carrying something. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And I can attest to that for sure. Because I work with so many people, and like it just constantly comes up, you know? And but that's okay. I think it like makes us human. It's like
Hmm.
accepting the humanness in us, right? Like I don't know. I think sometimes I get these thoughts like, oh, I need to be like this robot that can just like produce and be productive. And it's like, no, like I can also be a human. Like like that's okay too. We're all given that. Like this is this human experience, right? I'm a soul having a human experience. Like it's okay.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't
because
know.
I think, I often put like different, maybe people like on a pedestal or like, oh, like, this person's like so unbelievably like, perfect,
Oh,
beautiful,
a
whatever.
thousand
Like they
percent.
don't have anything like wrong with them. Like, we go on social media and like, oh, this girl can't be
They
like
look great.
insecure. But it's
Yeah.
like, mm-mm. If it's not about looks, it's about everybody's got something. So I try to remind myself that.
Yes. Yes. It goes back to that vicious cycle of comparison. You know, if I look at other photographers, I'm like, oh man, but she's so doing so good. And look at this work that she's done. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's so like she's so well established and she's been doing this longer than me, or or shorter than me. And look, I feel like she's better than me. Like all of those things. Yeah. But then it's remembering like, but she still has, or he still has the same challenges that I do.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Right.
Totally get that.
And so like when it comes to your work, I love how you always you like preach about how you you love to capture people's, unique beauty and like celebrate their beauty and like no
Yeah.
matter what we like we are all beautiful and like I love how you like to capture people's personalities and like and I think it's so special. And what do you like find now, like we're saying, since we're on the topic of insecurities, so many of us
Yeah.
are, maybe lacking confidence and avoid taking pictures and everything. Like, what have you kind of learned about confidence? And like, do you have any tips for people that, maybe are
Mm.
feeling not so confident?
Yes. So that is such a good question. So for confidence, a lot of times it comes from, there's two ways you can go about it. One, it comes from inside. So it's a mindset thing. We've talked a lot about mindset, right? And so it's saying, okay, like I am worthy. I am beautiful. I actually just shared a mantra on TikTok like the other night. And
Ooh.
it was like so, and for me it's honestly just repeating these positive mantras. I think for that one I said, and it just like came to me and I was like, okay, and again I'm gonna curse. I keep forgetting, like, can I
Oh no,
curse?
you're good. I put
Yeah.
I mark it explicit so like it can't get taken off
I was
because I'm
like,
always
it's
like, fuck.
okay. Yeah, I'm like, do I have permission? Just checking. Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, I am like a beautiful badass, or a beautiful fucking badass, made from the same substance as the stars in the sky. And I'm here on purpose. And I do not need to be perfect to be beautiful. Like, like just saying stuff like that to myself and reminding myself, like, hey, like this is me and I am supposed to be here right now. So it's like confidence comes from that place. Like, what do you think Lizzo says to herself before she gets on stage? What do you think Beyonce says to herself before she gets on stage? She's not saying I'm a piece of shit and I shouldn't be doing this. Like, they're just not. They're
Right.
saying I'm awesome. And they have people around them telling them how awesome they are, right? So that is a huge part of it. Just like what you repeat. I mean, it's what is that saying? Energy flows where focus goes, right? So that's why all this mindset stuff is so important. So that's number one for confidence, like what you're saying to yourself, what the people, and then number two is like, what are people around you saying to you, right? Like, if you're feeling a lack of confidence, but there's also a lot of people around you saying a lot of negative stuff to you, like that may also be impacting it. And like you need to kind of evaluate then your relationships a little bit. Like, so that's something like you can do so much, right? But then if there's actually like really stuff that you need to be paying attention to because people aren't being like really nice, or you're maybe like seeing a lot of stuff on the internet and you're like constantly comparing yourself and stuff, like maybe take a look at that, right? And like what am I feeding myself? What are people saying to me? Kind of evaluate that. And then the third thing is there are so many ways to like adjust like your posture. Like Amy Cuddy has this research, right? Like I think she actually has a book too that's really
I'm gonna
good.
write that down, that name.
Amy Cuddy.
I'm so interested in
It's
like,
called Presence.
okay.
And so it's literally like different positions you can put your body in to feel more open and confident. So like they actually say, so like putting your hands behind your ears and like spreading out, taking up space, right? For 2 minutes at a time. So like sitting here, if I were here 120 seconds, just in this posture, saying to myself positive things as I'm saying this posture, that will actually present as more confident on camera or in an interview or in somewhere else where you are needing to show up like a networking event. Um, having your chin up a little bit, like not like high, right? You don't want nose in
Hmm.
the sky, but having your chin up and your shoulders back, right? That also exudes confidence, right? And it tells your body, hey, we're here to engage, right? I'm opening myself up. I'm here to engage. Chin up here. And people see that and they also see, oh, that's a confident person, right? They're perceiving these are cues people actually perceiving in their environment to say, oh, that person's confident. I want to engage with that confident person. I want to talk to that confident person, which then makes you feel more confident because people are giving you, again, that energy, right? Goes back to the second point, which is like, what are people telling you? How are people engaging with you? So there are tons of cues. Amy Cuddy has a great book. Another good book is called Cues by Vanessa Van Edwards. And she talks about charisma. And she talks about how there's like 90 some different cues that we're giving off at any given time.
I think I've seen her on Lewis Howe's
Yep.
podcast.
Excellent, excellent, excellent book. And she like literally like just the cues and how you're speaking, how you're presenting yourself, right? Like if you know that after you get a blowout, you feel better, go get a blowout before your networking event that you're anxious for. Just go do it. That'll automatically make you feel more confident, right? Wear the fun jacket, right? That you know people are going to compliment you on because it's already going to give you an opening, right? And make you feel more confident because people are like, oh my God, I love your jacket. And you're like, thank you. Oh my God. And what's your name? What do you do? Let's get to know each other. Like there are like strategies from mindset to actual tactical things you can do to really help you feel more confident. And then you could do that in your everyday life. And obviously, I help people do this on the camera because I'm there hyping you up. I'm there giving you mantras. And then I'm also helping you look really good beforehand, like telling you get your makeup done, get your hair done. Like I have a makeup artist, right? Like I have a stylist that you can work with, like to help you feel really good. So that when you're showing up for your shoot, your brand shoot, you're like, oh yeah, I already feel great. Like I'm the best version of myself right now. Let's do this. Like, so yeah, there's definitely a lot of strategies for confidence. Those are just like a handful that I've read about and researched, but it's a really cool thing to learn because it can help you excel, and we all deserve to have it. So,
And I think you bring like a really good point with the confidence too, which is, well, obviously, like we said, like so much of it is internal, but external is a lot too, like clothes, like,
mhm.
and but then also thinking like, okay, if we're not sure about like what clothes we like or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
what clothes do you have in your closet that you hate? And you're just like every time you
Get
put
rid of
them on,
them.
you're just like,
Get rid
I
of
hate.
them.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it all has like everything is energy, right? And like
Mm-hmm.
it also comes down to that if we want to get like a little bit more woo-woo spiritual, whatever. And it's like, all right, well, if we're gonna wear this sweater that's a little bit bulky and we kind of feel maybe like a little bit larger maybe than we are when we wear it, like that energy you're going to
Don't wear
carry
that to your photo
into.
shoot.
Yeah, don't wear it to
Don't
your
wear it
photo
to your photo
shoot.
shoot.
Yeah.
Don't wear it to your networking event. Don't
Yeah.
wear it out, especially if you're already feeling low energy, right? Here's another trick too. If you're feeling low energy and you're like, okay, I know I have to go do this thing tonight, right? But I'm not really in the mood, whatever. Do whatever you can. Maybe it's taking a nice shower, right? Maybe you are about to wash your hair. Maybe you're like, tomorrow's really my hair day, but I would really feel better if I wash my hair. Just go freaking wash your hair, right? Like those little tips will help you feel better before the event, right? Because then you'll feel fresh. You'll feel like yourself,
Hmm.
right? Right. It's like those little things that can make a difference though, right? Because I know I come up against them, but it's also there's research that backs this up. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Funny you say that about the hair though, because like I was talking to my friend about it like last night, and like most people now it's like so common to just wash your hair like twice a week, maybe once if some
yeah.
people can push it like that. And I I just notice when I like have my hair is like washed, I just feel like so much better because like the one day like might be pushing it like, and I'm like,
Yes,
I should
yes.
just.
We've all done it too. We've all
Yeah.
pushed it just a little too far because we're like,
Hmm.
oh, but it's a lot to do right now. And you're like,
Yeah.
but then you go out and you're like, I feel kind of blah, right? Because your hair feels kind of blah, right? So that's part of you and who you are and how
Hmm.
you're presenting to the world. People feel that. Like, go back, everything's energy. And that's going to contribute to your confidence. And the thing is, confidence isn't like a zero sum thing, right? You don't have it one day and it's gone the next and then it comes back. I mean, it's literally like constantly changing, right? Like it's not like you either have it or you don't. That's what I meant to say. It's not either you have it or you don't have it. It's something you can literally like bring to any situation. Like anybody, it's accessible for everyone, right? You just have to play with the tools and play with the strategies to have it and to use it to your advantage, right? Like we all have it. Because we all know that feeling of going to a party where you have a really good time and you're really lit up by the people around you and these environments where you feel like you're just exuding your best self, right? That's confidence, right? We've all had at least one of those experiences in our lives, I think. I hope
Hmm.
we all deserve to have it. So um yeah, it's accessible.
I
Yeah.
I love the way that you put that. Yeah, because yeah, we all have like at least one of those moments.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Just what did you have in that moment? What was going on for you in that
hmm, yeah,
moment?
and like you're saying, like it's like I don't know the word that I'm looking for, but I guess it's weight, like confidence kind of comes in waves too. Like I
Yeah,
guess kind of
it
like grief,
can.
like it's not static, right? That's the
No, it's
word.
not the static thing that you either have it or you don't.
Hmm.
Yeah, you just learn, and at different phases of your life, it looks different, right? Because I mean, it's a dynamic concept. There's a lot of confidence. We could talk about this. We could really go deep on this, but I won't. We'll maybe say that for another time.
Yeah.
But like, there's definitely, it's definitely something that you can grow. Go back to the mindset thing.
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
fixed. Yeah, and yeah, and then just like stick with people who want to help lift you up too. Like that's gonna go a long way.
Hmm.
Find those people, find those sources, follow those people on Instagram, right? Like think about that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
So
make us.
feel good.
So, oh, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, that's it.
Yeah, do you have any like tips for people that want to be more confident, maybe in photos, like posing and stuff? Do you have any like tips maybe that
Yeah.
people don't know or something?
Love that. Oh, good question. So, okay, feeling more confident in photos. So it goes back to a lot of what we just said, right? So, one, what are you wearing? Start there, right? If you're like, "Ah, I'm super pumped to wear this outfit, cool. Another thing is like posing in and of itself can feel intimidating for some, but it really can be very accessible. I have a bunch of TikToks and reels that I've done that people can take a look at for literally like poses. Because I think just saying to yourself before you get into pose, like, oh, I don't know what to do with my hands, right? You're already setting yourself up for not feeling confident because you're telling yourself, I don't know what to do. You're sending a cue to your brain to say, oh, I, I'm unsure, right? And unsure is uncertainty. That's not confidence. Say, hey, you know what? I'm going to try this and see how it looks. The thing with pictures, we are in the digital age. If it doesn't look good, you can delete it. Like, just know it's not meant to be there forever. It will go away, right? You can easily get rid of it. And you have time on your hands. Like, just give yourself some grace. Take a deep breath before you take a photo and say, I'm going to try a few things and see what looks good, instead of that pressure of like, do I don't know what to do. Like, it's okay. It's all okay. Like, that would be my suggestion is take a breath, wear something you love, and then just be willing to play with it. And then if you want more support, check out some of my reels, come talk to me because I'm happy to help. But I think that, yeah, just give yourself some grace. Start there because play around with it. It's fun,
Mhm.
right? Like, models practice the stuff in the mirror. You can too, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, literally, like they practice a lot.
Literally.
I'm like,
They
what?
actually have coaches, right? Like, there's somebody that's paid to show you how to walk down like a runway, the red carpet. They
Mm,
get paid to actually show people how to do that. So, like, don't think people just naturally have that gift of like, oh, I look amazing in a photo. Like, maybe Giselle, I don't know. But like most of us humans, hey, like, it takes effort, it takes a little practice, and that's okay. Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah. Does that
Well,
help?
yeah, no, definitely. No, that's good. Yeah, because I just remember like so many people, like, well, at least with like my mom, and I know like a lot of moms, like, they take a picture and they're like, oh, I don't like how I look in this, or like, I don't want to be in the picture. I don't want to be the picture. And I
Mm,
hear like, people like our age and friends and stuff like, oh, like it's bad. Let me take more. Like, which like I've done before too. But then people take like 90 pictures and like something, and it's like they don't have one good. Like they're like, I don't have. I don't know. It's just like very
you pick yourself
people are very
apart.
critical. Yeah,
Yeah, you
about it.
pick yourself apart. And I think that goes back to everything you were saying on this podcast, right? Like, I don't like, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, but like, you have to choose to love yourself, right? Like, I actually did that the other day. And yeah, some pictures are bad. Sometimes it's a bad picture, and that's okay, right? Like, I'm not like, I'm pictures, I'm like, oh, that's not it. Because I know what a good picture of me looks like, right? Like, and that's okay. But if you're like literally dissecting every single piece of you to where you're no longer enjoying it, right? And you don't want to be in pictures because you're just hating on yourself, like, this is your one shot at life. This is your one shot to be here and enjoy yourself and be with people you like and enjoy to be around. Like, embrace that and like focus on the parts of you that are awesome. Like, the other day, I actually did this with a picture. I was out with a bunch of friends. We were at an event. It was a really great event. And we started taking pictures. And I was like, so like, what do you guys, the thing where you group around and you're like, so which ones do you guys like? Right? Like, oh, I look good in this one. You look good. Oh, but my chin's a little weird in that one. I don't know. My leg looks funny. Finally, I was like, you know what? It's good. I don't care. I'm happy to be here with you guys. Post it. Don't care. Like, it was good. And that was enough. And like, just doing that for myself, I was like, that felt so good. Felt so good. And they posted it and it was fine. It was fine. It was great.
Right. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened. And
Social
okay,
media
yeah,
didn't
maybe my
shut down.
chin's not perfect. My legs look damn good. So that was okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love how you put that. Like we have this one life. Like why? Like don't. It's so hard. I mean, we want to let some of these things stop us, but when it comes down to it, it's just like
No,
enjoy it.
yeah.
Like enjoy it. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, and don't let that
Don't
people
let it
stop
stop
you
you.
stop you because like people should see that, especially if you own a business, right? Like, it's good to be out there, personal branding. Like, I know I'm toting my own horn right now, but like, it's good for people to see you, right? Getting out there and meeting people and doing things. Don't let it stop you, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because those are opportunities, right? Those are opportunities that are going to stop you from getting that you want, because you all deserve to have the life that you want to, right? And to share your services with the world. People need to know you, to know your services. Take your picture, get it out there. It's okay, even if it's not
Yeah.
perfect.
So, what advice maybe would you give to like somebody maybe in their earlier 20s, like, they're just starting out in like quote unquote the real world, like
Yeah.
anything you would tell them regarding mindset or, life, confidence, would
Mm,
you tell
I would
somebody?
say give yourself some grace. I would say you are doing the best you can. and put the chin up, put those shoulders back, and just trust that, you're going to learn along the way and it's okay to take messy action. So, okay.
The theme, messy action.
Like, just do it. Yeah, it's
I love
okay.
it.
Yeah, I think that it's hard because you're in your 20s, man. You're just learning. Like you're just learning so much, and there's so much knowledgeable available to you. So, yeah, I mean that's definitely a period in my life where I was taking a lot of mess, but then and also try, right? Like don't just like you know take messy action where you're like not spell checking anything and you're just throwing random things at the wall. Like try. But like, yeah, you don't have to be perfect to start.
Hmm. I love that. You don't have to be perfect to start because no, we don't.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like your best is enough too. Like
Yeah, exactly.
I
That. Because I think a lot of us are very good, right? That's the thing. I think a lot of times like this perfection like feeling is it actually really isn't relevant because like what we were doing is good enough. Like it actually is very good. It actually somebody else may seem perfect, right? Because like it may actually look great. It's just our own internal like evaluation of it, of like, oh, where you could have maybe tried something different here or there. That okay, just
Mhm.
yeah, let it go a
Love
little
it.
bit. You're okay. You're doing great.
Is there anything else that you want to add for the listeners or anything? And then you can shout out your Instagram and everything.
Oh my gosh. No, just no, I think we covered so much. It was such a beautiful conversation, Tammy. Thank you so
Hmm.
much for having me on here. I hope your listeners get even just a little nugget from this. Maybe they just get a little 1% better, right? This is their 1% for the day where they, have like a nice moment where they realize they're all awesome too. But yeah, that's probably it. And you can find me on almost all the social channels. um,
Yes.
uh,
Follow
Instagram, and I'm like, where is it? Where are the social channels?
TikTok.
Instagram. My brain just went like blank for a second. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those places. My website is www.nicholenchphotography.com, and I would love to chat with you and learn more about you. So yeah, reach out.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation and like I love being able to like talk about all this personal development, like
Me too.
mindset stuff with somebody because
Me too.
I know we could just keep going on if we
We
wanted
could keep
to
going
about
for a
it.
long
I love
time.
it. I love it. All
Love it.
right.
Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on and for spending your time with me. And yeah, I can't wait to talk again soon.
Bye.
Bye.